In today's show, we have another of our popular TNT Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, where we talk about the missing 411.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasula, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? what are you going to do, eh?
Come on, be bright. The weather's great here in Northampton.
Oh,
It's sunny. It's great
good
disposition.
Lord, you lucky dog. I have completely forgotten to get a joke ready for you this week.
No, actually, what was I
What?
saying no for? I'm happy. Our listeners are jubilating. Yay!
I completely forgot to get a joke ready. Oh, no.
Do you know what? This episode now I have more listeners than ever.
Oh, that's terrible. What a bad, awful start to this episode for me.
No, our listeners are probably thinking, yay, we haven't had to be subdued to one of Tayo's terrible jokes. Anyway, I hope you are well, my friend. And yes, please say hello to our audience. Come on, I've made you smile this morning.
Oh, what the hell? Hello, audience.
Yay! 2 positives in one episode. I can't believe it.
Don't worry, I'll get you back. I always do.
Oh dear. Anyway, in today's show, we discuss an interesting topic, and it's called the missing 1-1. Now,
Nope.
I dare
No, it
say.
isn't.
Oh, go on.
It's called the missing 411.
411, that's it. Now, see, I got confused there as well. And I dare say many of our listeners are scratching their head thinking, what the heck is this? So, Tayo, as you came up with this, I'll hand over to you if you could explain what this actually is.
Right. You introduced it as a conspiracy, I believe. So it's a conspiracy episode. For
Yeah.
me, it isn't a conspiracy episode. I know there are some conspiracy theories attached to it, but for me, it isn't a conspiracy. What it is this. 411 is the police code for unknown, apparently, in America. And the missing 411 are the cases where there is no reasonable explanation for why people went missing. Because you have a reasonable explanation in that someone disappears from home, the person's clothes are missing, suitcase is gone, bank accounts have been cleared out. The person is obviously just left.
Yeah.
And okay, you don't find them, but that's because they don't want to be found. They planned it and they disappeared.
Absolutely.
And then you have unsolved cases where someone was walking home, they were seen at a certain place, and then they were not seen, and we suspect abduction or something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
Those are not 411 cases either. We there are reasonable explanations as to what happened.
Right.
We don't know what happened, but there are reasonable explanations. Well, unfortunately, this person appears to have been kidnapped or something like this.
Yeah.
And then you have these cases where people seemingly step off the planet. They just, they just disappear, usually within seconds or minutes of being seen. And, searches, as I'll walk you through some of the cases I've lined up here.
Okay.
Searches are instituted almost immediately. And there are a couple of things that make it a 411 case. So number one is that often rescuers and searchers find some of these people or their bodies. They find them or, alive and well or not in places they have already searched. That's one thing that is like a recurring theme. So different people have searched the same area at different times. And then eventually somebody goes back to that area and goes, oh, look, here's a person. Like, well, how the heck did everybody else miss them? That's
Could
one.
they have missed them
Well,
genuinely, or it's just like no, 5, 10 people saw this spot, there was nothing here, and all of a sudden, blatantly, the body appears in the same spot.
yeah, that is correct. Because not only that, they got dogs with them and things.
Oh
You know,
wow!
searched trained search dogs, and you can't. Different teams come in the same area, and then it's like you find them and say, "Well, that's not reasonable." The other thing is, a lot of the missing in the 411 case have got some kind of disability,
Oh
various
right.
kinds of disabilities. So a lot of them have got like a learning disability, or they wear a hearing aid, or they're partially sighted, or something like that. So you go, well, partially sighted, isn't that an explanation in itself? So, yeah, but then there was extra care given
Yeah.
because of the disability,
Yes, I see.
besides which, as I said, in 411 cases, when searches are instituted almost immediately when the person has gone missing.
Yeah.
So then you ask yourself, well, how far could a partially sighted person have gone in any direction, within an hour?
Yeah. Does
You
that
flood the place with 200 people within an hour and you still can't find this person?
Yeah. Does that sort of imply that there is somebody else involved rather than it being a missing persons type situation? Does it not involve somebody else? So there is a nefarious reason behind it. Somebody has gone out to or been opportunist even and grabbed them and taken them away. So you're looking for not a murder suspect if they've been returned, but if there has been a body found in a location that was searched and previously wasn't, then surely that's a murder investigation.
Well, that's not a bad question. It's actually quite a good question. Two problems with that. This has been going on for donkey's years. I mean, I've got a case here that went back to 1952.
Oh, wow.
So, and then the latest case I think was that I looked up was I think 2018.
Are these in the same place,
No,
though?
not at all. They're all scattered all
Ah,
over, not just America. I was going to discuss the chap who wrote the book and named it, the Missing 411. His name is David Paulides, Paul, as in
right.
Paul,
Okay. Yeah.
and then IDES. So Paul,
IDS.
IDES, so Paulides. So,
Politis.
a
Okay.
former police detective, police officer. He wrote this book on the Missing 411. And the first book he wrote was Eastern United States. And he's written another book in 2014, which is called The Missing 411, America and Beyond, where he deals with missing cases in 5 countries in all.
Wow.
So it's by no means is it restricted to a certain area. Although missing 411 cases there's another what you call it trait,
Hmm.
in that it tends to happen in secluded areas, woody areas, trails, and national parks in America, near boulders, and what's the other thing? There's near trees, quite a lot of them. But there's a sort of like a spike.
Can I interject there? So if it's near wooded areas, anything like that, this is where I think about the conspiracy angle. Could it be some creature like a Bigfoot? Because I heard that, these people disappearing in this sudden way and not being found. Could it be some animal or some beast or something like that that could have, grabbed them? And because it's not a bear, it's not a bear would attack immediately and, it'd be blood and all that sort of stuff. But these people, my understanding of this is that they just literally disappear with very little trace. There's no blood generally in the location they disappeared from. And so could it be something, conspiracy, dynamite conspiracy, where it is something like a Bigfoot or some creature that we just don't know?
Yeah, but then there's no evidence of the Bigfoot itself. So, okay, the person goes, let's say a Bigfoot grabs a person and picks them up and walks off with them. So, all right, this Bigfoot has got its own weight to carry, and then the weight of the kidnapped person, the abducted person,
Yeah.
and they're not leaving footprints behind. There's no smell. The dogs aren't chasing anything. Don't forget that usually dogs involved, sniffer dogs,
Yeah.
and they're not chasing anything. And
So
then,
the dogs find nothing, literally nothing, no trails, no nothing.
well, if they do find a trail, I think I've read of one case where did go up a trail and then just kind of stopped. The trail just
Wow.
ended, just boom, for no good, without good reason. And the thing is, where these people do end up dead, you find their corpses or whatever.
Yeah.
Their clothes are often removed, but most of the time, the clothes are being removed carefully and with no sign of struggle or predation, like the person themselves took off their clothes.
Wow.
And I've even got a story of a little boy who did something very similar, and I'll walk you through that. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah, hearing this now, I'm going to go, it is a dynamite conspiracy. It's aliens.
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness gracious me!
what logical explanation could it be? I mean, think about this. Let's try and be rational. Okay, I've thrown that in as a curveball.
Aliens and irrational.
Well, what else could it be? I mean, why would an individual who is perfectly sane, could they have become insane? I mean, in a short period. I mean, why would they then take their clothes off and disappear? I mean, is it not true that there's been instances where people have gone off somewhere? I mean, obviously jump in if I'm saying this incorrectly, but they've gone off somewhere and as you've rightly said, there's no trail, nothing at all. So you think, well, okay, where did they go to? And then they appear several hundred miles away with different clothes on, different everything, with no rhyme or reason, no memory of getting there. And at the other end, they're normal. So how do they get there in those vast distances with no evidence of any tracking, movement, as you rightly say, no footprints of anything? How do they get there? So that's why I'm throwing that question in. Could it, we have to sort of entertain any sort of option, could it have been an abduction? And then they were just put back later?
I think just to sort of stay on the realm of reality and reason,
Believability. Okay, yeah.
rather than aliens, I'm going to be a little bit crude here, folks, just for the humor of it.
Okay.
I think we may be thinking about the same case. I believe about the gentleman who went missing and he turned up in, was it California or San Francisco, hundreds of miles away. I believe it was Canadian too, if we're thinking about the same case.
Okay.
And he went missing. I don't believe he had even his wallet or anything.
No, nothing.
And then he turned up hundreds of miles away. He was in a ski outfit, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right, in a ski outfit.
And he'd had a haircut.
Yeah.
He had entered a marathon or something. He had done all these things, ended up in San Francisco, and then finally called his wife and said, "Where the hell am I anyway? And what the hell is going on?"
Yeah. They thought he drowned or something.
They did, because his skis were by the lake.
Yeah.
And he just sort of disappeared. All right.
No footprints, no nothing, absolutely nothing.
So I've got a theory, and I said I'm going to be crude, but I'm being crude for the sake of humor, right? Okay. In one word, right?
What, you mean he found a female and he had an illicit affair and then used this
just went after ruse. A female, just used it.
Well, there is
That's why he didn't find anything, because he didn't want to leave a trail. So he went off, had fun and games, whatever, kind of just ran out of steam with the thing and had fun and games. Don't forget, he ran a marathon and whatnot, and had a haircut and and he was wearing, actually, when he had a haircut, he was still wearing his ski goggles, and everybody asked him, why didn't the barber say something about the ski goggles? So that was weird. But I'm just trying to be a little bit facetious. I'm saying, I think in cases like this, I am not really convinced that we're really dealing with a genuine missing person. I'm skeptical.
Because everyone assumed he was dead because he'd been missing for 14 months.
Yeah, I agree. But that, to me, is just somebody skiving off. I mean, I don't have any proof, but that's a lot easier to believe than aliens.
Indeed. No, I agree. When you put it that way. Yeah. But the thing is, what made it funny, if I'm right in thinking this, he was so fascinated by his own case and disappearance, he went and got himself a psychology degree because he wanted answers to his own disappearance and see whether he was something wrong with him.
I didn't know that, by the way. I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I
so
think there was something wrong with him. So anyway,
well, possibly, yeah.
let me because I was talking about David Paulides, who wrote
who
this
wrote
book.
the book, yeah.
And one thing that maybe, or sort of on the edge of this case supports your conspiracy theory, is that there are two things that I can't explain, nor can any other person who looks at this coldly and logically, which is that a lot of these people go missing, as I said before, in wooded areas. This sort of what the Americans call a national park, which is a reserved area for nature, like a nature reserve.
Yeah.
And the Americans got 400 of these things, not 400 on the dot, but around 400 of them.
Wow.
And a lot of people go missing in these areas. So a lot of these 411 cases happen in these areas. But the National Park Service will not discuss them.
Really?
Yes.
Is that more to do with protecting the environment? Because if a rumor starts to occur that it's not safe in a particular park, surely they're going to lose business, and they don't want that to happen. Hence, they suppress it, I suppose.
Well, I don't know if they make money from people going there anyway. So
They must make
think
some, surely.
I think they're funded by the federal government to keep the place pristine. So in a way, the fewer people that go there, the better, because the more pristine it will be.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So there is that. And then secondly, is that the FBI, unexpectedly and inexplicably, is less than helpful when it comes to many of the 411 disappearances.
Really?
They will actually not help.
Oh, why do they use that stance? They just say they leave it to the local authorities.
They sometimes don't even bother to answer to requests.
That's odd.
Well, the two things taken together, one thing, maybe the National Park Service on its own is just they can't be bothered. But when you add it to the FBI, then that is this Paul Paulides is saying, like, this Paulides, is saying, what the heck? Why? It's your duty to protect people, and if there's a serial, like you thought initially, didn't you? Serial killer, Bigfoot, something, surely we should be looking into it.
Yes.
But no, actually. And sometimes not only can they be less than helpful, they can actually be obstructive.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it's in the book. Again, I say it's now I do have a copy of it. It's called Missing 411, The Missing 411, and then Eastern United States by David Paulides. And I encourage people to maybe just buy the book off Amazon or other
Amazon, surely.
Some other place.
Yeah.
Right? I've got a couple of I've got one or two cases here that I thought were particularly interesting. I'll start off with perhaps the most ordinary of these cases was a Jared, spelled Jaryd, Jared Atadero, Atadero, who was age 3 at the time. He disappeared.
He was aged 3 years old.
Yes,
child. Okay.
Well, I think everybody I'm looking at here was I was interested in the children more than anyone else.
The children would be the ones that are more believable, let's put it that way, because adults, as you've rightly said in the previous case we just discussed, could have had a reason that could be explained logically. Oh yeah, he's found a woman, she met him by the lake where he disappeared in a boat, he planned this out, left the skis there, made it look like he disappeared, but then obviously got on a boat with her. That's it, gone. Then that would make it logical. But you're right, when there's children involved, that's a different story. So go on.
So this is Jared, like I said. He and his family, they went to Comanche Peak Wilderness, which is a national park. I forgot to write which state it was in. I don't think it matters to most people who are not Americans.
Yeah.
And he disappeared on the 2nd of October in 1999. Like I said, he was 3 years old. Now, what makes it a 411 case? They started looking for Jared within minutes, literal minutes. I don't think it was up to 10 minutes of his disappearing, because each parent thought that the boy was with the other, if you see, but they were only a few minutes apart.
Yeah.
And then when parents A met parent B, it was like, where's Jared? Where's Jared? Oh, well, where is he? And between the two of them, like, well, it has to be in this sort of area between where you were and where I was, because it was in between.
And he's only 3.
And he's only 3, so where could he have gone? So, he's shouting, and then...
And there's no one else there.
No one else there.
So it could have been a bear? Possibly?
Well, again, let me just walk you through it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And then very, very quickly, as usual in these 411 cases, help was raised. Police showed up, because when a child goes missing, it's not like when an adult goes missing, they say, wait 24 hours.
Yeah.
When a child goes missing, they ask you, are you near water? It's the first thing they ask. Right. In this case, they said, no, we're not. So then, okay, we'll get blah, blah, blah. And then very quickly it was flooded. I think it was 65 search and rescue professionals were deployed within the hour.
Wow.
So how far can a 3-year-old go within an hour?
Not very far.
Well, they searched for him, and they searched, and they didn't find anything.
Nothing at all.
Nothing
Not
at all.
Thing. Wow.
And it was one of these cases where I see people eventually find something that was already searched, in an area that was already searched. Yeah. This was 3 years later.
What?
3 years later, they found his skull, a single tooth, and they were beneath his shoes, cap, jackets, and trousers. The clothing items were placed on a log. And just beneath the log were the skull and the tooth. Wow. Now, what makes this a 411 case is that there is no sign of scuffing on the shoes. So clever people, cleverer than myself, they looked at this, so no signs of scuffing. He wasn't dragged. So he wasn't dragged by an animal. Because if he was dragged by an animal, there would have been scuffing on the shoes. I didn't realize that. There was no DNA, animal DNA, found on the clothing or anything. No saliva, nothing.
What?
Neither was Jared's blood found on the clothing. What? There was, and no bones, nothing. So we just had the skull and a single tooth. The trousers, by the way, were turned inside out, and it was the body parts and clothes were found 550 feet higher up the mountain from where he disappeared, up a how do they call it? Like shale, like shale.
Yeah.
Like this way you can easily slip.
Yeah.
Like shaly rocks and things. So it is actually a hard scrabble to get up there.
Even for an adult?
Even for an adult.
So no way would a child have got up there?
No way would a child have, and no way would that child have gone up there. And within the weeks that they would be searching, and people had passed that same area, they would have missed it either. Because you literally, almost literally, not quite, but almost literally on your hands and knees at that point.
Yeah.
So how do you crawl past that, and everybody does, and then you don't see it, and then somebody else sees it? A couple of hikers actually found it, found the items later. So that's what makes that a 411 case, and no explanation. No explanation for it.
See that okay. That's a really troubling story, really, because if this child was 3 and he was effectively abducted by something, can't say what it was, but there was no, okay, if there was no, it wasn't an animal that just grabbed him, because as you rightly said, he would have had scruff marks. Could it have something like, I mean, this is where I'm going to go back to conspiracy sort of thing. Could it have been something like a Bigfoot that was in a tree and literally just grabbed him, so he didn't have to be dragged along the ground, actually was dragged amongst the trees, but was snatched off the ground. So there's no footprints, there's no scuffing, there's no anything, because we are assuming that if there is such a creature as a Bigfoot, it may be on the ground, as opposed to it being able to move around the trees at at will. So it could reach down, snatch him, yank him up, just kill him somehow, and then go through the trees quite easily with this small body and then end up on the cliff. Now, why would the clothes be folded? That's a separate question. But this would.
I didn't say folded. It just sets.
Oh, I see. Set. But still, that would or could indicate a level of intelligence in a primate type beast. So there could be that, but I don't know. It just sounds really quite disturbing that this child just literally went missing. But this is the thing, thinking this Bigfoot thing, conspiracy, could it be that we are believing that this, if there is such a creature, is just walking around as opposed to maybe in the treetops? So that would give it the opportunity to grab people. And so there is no evidence to search because everybody searches two-dimensionally. You're searching down, you're searching around the site they went missing. Instead, not many people look up and think, well, if there's trees around, could it be possible that a tree-dwelling creature, such as a Bigfoot or big ape or equivalent, could reach down, and they're very powerful, could grab very easily a child and just yank him out?
Well, the problem with that is that it's called Bigfoot because it leaves footprints. That's why it's called Bigfoot. The second problem with that is that this shale area, now I think I'll be able to provide images. I've upped my research skills, by the way, guys. Audience. So
good.
You will find that I now accompany our releases with a lot of images and links and text.
Excellent.
And I might be able to go back and find a picture of the area. And this idea of going from tree to tree won't apply because the trees are quite sparse.
Ah.
It's not that kind of a wooded area.
Right, I see. So there is space. It's more not barren, but less tree populated. It's more up the mountains, I suppose.
Precisely.
Right.
So that doesn't. And then you said because Bigfoot is quite powerful. We haven't proven the existence of Bigfoot, so we cannot speculate about how powerful they are. Thought to be big, or maybe they're just big and weak. We don't know. Maybe they're big and. I mean, I don't know if I definitely don't believe in Bigfoot anyway.
Unlikely. If there is such a creature, it would be. I mean, any few sightings of it and any reports of the Bigfoot have always been a big creature, 6, 7, 8 feet tall. So you would then assume, comparing them to primates we are familiar with, like gorillas, etc., who are incredibly strong. Because a gorilla, which is a silverback, for instance, which is a similar size as a human, maybe a little taller, is like 4 or 5 times stronger than a fully grown man. So if a Bigfoot did exist that was a ape-like creature, then we could quite easily assume that it would be incredibly strong.
Yeah. No. Okay. Besides which, I believe that the sightings of Bigfoot are actually bears, because I've seen video of a bear. No one can test that it wasn't a bear walking through the wood on its hind legs with a very curious gait, and it was walking, upright.
Wow.
And like I said, the gait was weird. And if you really pay attention, a lot of times people say that Bigfoot has a peculiar gait.
Mm.
And so straight away I was like, and then by the way, I saw another video of a bear sitting on a hill, twirling a stick.
What?
Twirling it better than a cheerleader. I've never seen any human cheerleader twirling a stick that well.
Really?
And it was just doing it for fun. So bears are weird, man. Okay? They are seriously, I mean, they are really, really weird creatures. They're very, very clever.
Yes,
they're very, very strong. They are humongously strong, and they're just damn peculiar. There's another picture I've got, which I think I can share with the audience if I can find it. I'll write it down here. Of a bear staring, it's on its hind legs, standing on the balustrade of the outside fence. Not the fence, really, a low on a veranda, or
Yeah,
what would you call it? What's another word for veranda?
a veranda. I don't know. A
Like the
veranda's a good
balcony is a better word.
balcony. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
like a low wall on
yeah.
the balcony, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah,
But it was just steel in this case, or iron or something.
yeah.
So it's standing on that,
Standing on it, on the
standing on it,
metal.
on the
Okay,
metal. So that's fantastic balance.
yeah.
And it's got both paws pressed up against a glass window, and it's looking in, just like an intruder, just like like
Wow.
a stalker. And whoever took that picture was to be like, "Oh my goodness!" And
Yeah.
it's just so reminds. It's curious. It's looking
Mm,
in. Goodness knows what it's calculating and thinking.
yeah.
And bears are weird, man. So I think you're Bigfoot. I know that the so-called prints of a Bigfoot don't match a bear's. Okay, so
No, they
that
don't.
is one thing that counts against me. But then again, there is no undisputed footprint of a Bigfoot.
No, that's true.
Oh, so there we go. Anyway, so back to where we coming from. So
Yeah.
that's Paul Jared's
Wow.
story, and then I've got another. Have you got any, by the way? Do you want to share?
Well, the one that I did find one, which is the little boy. He was a 10-year-old boy, partially deaf boy, named Bobby Bizup.
Oh, we both got him. Okay, well,
Ah,
let you
you've
tell the
got that
story.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You see, the hearing thing is, the disability.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was partially deaf,
Mm.
and he was attending a Catholic camp for boys called Camp St. Malo
Mm-hmm.
that sits on the border of the Rocky Mountain National Park. And a camp counselor, I'll read it verbatim so I won't give you the wrong information. And he said a camp counselor found him fishing at the river and told him to come back to camp for dinner. The boy started to follow him, and when the counsellor glanced over his shoulder to double check, Bobby had disappeared. 400 people searched for 9 days, but they found no clues. 1 year later, counsellors found his hearing aid and bits of torn clothing 2,000 feet up the side of the mountain.
Yes.
The search party had already searched that area at least 3 times the year before. None of his other remains have ever been found.
Yep.
Now, to me, that adds more credence to a creature. It really does. And if you said that the area that a lot of these places are in, maybe they aren't many trees that these creatures could maybe swoop down from. But if the ground isn't marshy or grass or anything like that, but it's shale-like, as you've described, then you're not really going to leave any footprints, are you? Because
Well,
that surface is movable. Do you see what I mean?
well, you have to be careful. The shield thing was specifically for Jared.
Oh, I see.
Specifically for Jared. I'm talking about that specific case, and the image I say I'll provide is of the area. Actually, I'm going to provide an image that shows where the skull was found and the clothes, and
Yeah,
you can see for yourself that the area is shaly and sparsely treed.
if that's a word.
Well, I
Yes.
believe it is. It's a verb. You can make
Okay.
it a verb.
Okay.
I think. Good question.
Yeah. Not many trees. That's fine. Okay. So yeah, I mean, the fact that we are seeing examples of this. I mean, this is the example of this young boy, Bobby Bizup, who was 10, partially deaf. It sits on the border of Rocky Mountain National Park. Now, Rocky Mountain, just from that, I'm not familiar with this area. Maybe some of our listeners are, and it would be great if our listeners could actually say, "Oh, actually, guys, it is shaly, it is whatever." They could give us a bit more context if they're familiar with that area. But the name itself, Rocky Mountain National Park, that seems to imply that there's mountains and they're rocky, simply enough. So
Mm.
generally, when you've got mountains like that near the base or towards the bottom, it could be shaly. And if he was brought up 2,000 feet the side of the mountain, which is really quite difficult to manage. Again, a similar example to the story you said about Jared. It's going up a mountain for safety or to get away. So it ventures down. So it's maybe a mountain dwelling, in quotes, creature, if that's what it is, coming down, trying to find food, is opportunist, finds these kids that are easy targets and snatches them away without leaving a lot of evidence. And because they're so powerful, they could smother their subject quite easily, in my opinion. This to me, these sorts of stories, especially that you've said they happen in these remote areas, does tend to lead towards some sort of creature. So not off-worldly, as we've just touched on, but something more worldly that we have not discovered yet as humans. It could be a bear-like creature, as you've said, but a hybrid maybe, or ape-like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we can just really keep our feet on the ground when we're doing research like this and when we're thinking about things like this. And in the case of small children, obviously you think about eagles, birds of prey, such as eagles. If they just snatch up, if a child just disappears, I'm quite happy to say that an eagle, which can carry just a small child of up to 3 or 4 years old, I believe, with ease.
Yes, very true.
We'll just pick up the child and just fly away the child and we'll never see because. But I mean, there's one case, I believe was the case of, what was his name now? D-O, D-E, D, and then the E is a small e, and then capital O-R-R, which is a very, very weird name, never come across before, Dior. I think that was something when he went missing at the age of 2 on the 10th of July in 2015 at Salmon Shally, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, Salmon Shally National Forest. Salmon is like the fish, S-A-L-M-O-N.
Oh, yeah, salmon, yeah.
And then Shally is C-H-A-L-L-I-S. So it could be chalice, for all I know. I'm going to call it Salmon Shally, whatever.
Okay.
National Forest. He disappeared. Because of his age and because of his weight and height and all that, eagles' nests were actually investigated.
Oh, right.
Specifically. And nothing was found. And I'm not even sure it's a 411 case because, yeah, I'll tell you why. Because, excuse me, there was a question. This Dior went missing between his parents and his grandfather and his grandfather's friend. So he started
went missing. Sorry, explain that again. How did he go missing between them?
He was walking behind his parents.
Okay.
He left the grandfather and grandfather's friend at the camp, at the trailer. They went walking towards where they fish.
Yep.
About halfway down towards where they fish, they turned around and said to Dior, "No, go back and stay with your granddad."
Okay.
Because that was the arrangement. It wasn't meant to be following them.
Oh, I see. So he just took off after them anyway.
No, go back to your granddad.
Go back to your granddad. So how far are we talking here? A mile?
Within sight.
Oh, within sight. So
within
100 meters.
Sight. And if someone like me or you were to throw a stone, we would hit the other place.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's that close. Yeah.
It's that close.
Okay. Right? So that's nothing. Yeah.
No.
Fair enough.
And he just disappeared.
He disappeared?
Yep. Never seen again.
How old was this child?
2 at the time. But I don't call it a 411 case because the grandfather's friend was a convicted sex offender.
What? But surely, was he with the grandfather? This friend?
The friend and grandfather say so. They are each other's alibi. And the parents are each other's alibi. It was supposedly a 411 case, but I think the grandfather may have been asleep, may have been inside the trailer. Who knows? I wasn't there. And all I'm saying is I take the shortest possible route, the one that has the least number of assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that's why I did not that is why I decided against presenting, was it Bobby again? What was his name? You yourself presented him just now.
Oh, Bobby, yes.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I decided against presenting Bobby's case because they dealt with Catholics. And I'm very sorry. We know what Catholics have been doing to kids. I mean, it needs to be said. So instead of that counselor telling the truth, because people are just assuming he told the truth that he went missing from point A
Yeah.
and his body was found 2,000 feet further up. What if counselor and boy went up 2,000 feet?
Right.
That's where the actual deed was done, so to speak. Now, what
Yeah.
happened to the body, I can't explain, but all I'm trying to say is that you can throw people off already because you're already starting with the wrong assumptions.
Yeah, 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 of course.
Yeah, and once you say you're dealing with Catholics, and then I was like, yeah, no, you know, I don't. I think there's a reasonable explanation. Remember at the beginning when I said a 411 case has to be a case where there is no
Is
logical
no
answer.
logical answer. So these are just on the edge case of 411 as far as you're
Precisely, because I
concerned.
haven't really got to the really like stuff.
Oh, really?
I've got two what that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sends shivers down your spine. You think, okay, that I can't explain.
Wow.
So when you're ready, I'll
Yeah,
tell
because
you about
these
them.
ones so far have, well, they haven't got an explanation per se, but
Hmm.
they're not beyond the realms of possibility with the explanation.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. You
Okay.
know, I mean, even if we don't go to Bigfoot,
Yeah, there's no there's no evidence for them, but
no.
it's you can give a explanation of some sort. But whereas you've got
However,
some examples that are completely out there, I assume.
precisely, Keith
Right.
Parkins, age 2, disappeared on the 10th of April, 1952, in Ritter, which is a
Yep.
town in Oregon, from a family friend's farm. It was snowing back in April, the 10th of April,
Yep.
and Keith and his two brothers went to the barn to see the new calf. I think that's why they were there. They wanted to see the cow and the new calf that
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
had just been born. And the family friend, the mother, called them, it's lunch. And the two boys took off.
Mm-hmm.
Keith, on the other hand, did not follow them.
Right.
He disappeared, obviously. We're talking about disappearances.
Yeah.
Well, within the hour, being a small town community back in the 50s,
Yep.
they had assembled 200 volunteers.
Right.
And these 200 volunteers came in and they tracked and tracked and tracked and looked for Keith. They found footprints late in the evening, just as believe as night was falling.
Right.
They found footprints about 3 miles from the barn.
3 miles from the barn.
Three
Okay.
miles from the barn,
Right.
headed towards the mountain, headed towards the mountain.
The child's footprints,
The child's
2-year-old,
footprints, the 2-year-old's
three
footprints,
miles away.
3 miles away in the snow. The tracks at that point veered to the left and went through like thick brush and, really difficult country. They were still able somehow to sort of track him throughout the night, but even they were having difficulty.
What?
Even they were having difficulty. And then early in the morning, about 7 o'clock in the morning, they found Keith face down in the snow. They were spread and they were able to call to the father and say, we found your son. The father came running, rushing up. It was on a sort of like a hill, a bluff. I got pictures too.
Yeah.
And it was face down in the snow. The father picked him up and he was
So
alive.
what? He
He
was
was
actually
alive.
alive.
7 miles as the crow flies from where the footprints of the 3 miles was found.
What?
He was alive. I remember when I told you I was going to tell you about the little boy who took off his jacket because you always say that people take their clothes off.
Yeah.
Well, he had taken his jacket off and his hat off and was lying down, face down in the snow next to his jacket and hat. So he took it off. I mean, there's no question about somebody abducted him or anything. He was like, he wandered off.
But that doesn't logically make sense. How would he have wandered off and travelled that far by himself?
Not only that, the two distances I've given you,
Yeah.
this is a 3 mile walk and then a 5 mile walk. So it was 8 miles in all.
Yeah.
That is as the straight line goes. It's not as you would walk it in real life. And
Right.
he did all that. Supposedly, he did all that. 12 miles is what people think that he would have, that if you walk it, you're walking
What
12 miles.
the 12 miles around because it's never a straight line as the
It's
crow
never a straight
flies.
line. It's never a straight line.
What?
So the 12 miles, and I did that in less than 19 hours somehow.
And I'm assuming the terrain wasn't the
No,
flattest.
no. I'm telling you, that was through brush. Thick brush and thickets and things like that.
a
Which is why
two-year-old boy.
Which is why they weren't able to catch up to him in that night. Yeah, a 2-year-old boy.
That is completely crazy.
It
That
is
doesn't
completely
make
crazy.
sense.
And Keith was alive. 65 plus. What is 65 plus 52?
65 plus 52,
Something with a 7 in.
112.
So he was still alive in 2012. Because in 2012, I've got a video of him talking about it, which I'm going to post.
Wow. And what does
Yes.
he say? Does he recall what happened?
He wandered off. He just got lost. He was going off in one direction, and when he looked around, he couldn't figure out where he was. He thought he was going back to the farmhouse. He wasn't.
And he kept walking.
He just kept walking.
But to travel,
yeah, that
12
is
miles.
that is the 411 bit. Nobody knows how he did it.
At 2.
At the age of 2.
Well, okay. Why did he take his coat and hat off then in the snow?
He couldn't explain. He's asked that. He says, like, I don't know.
I mean, that's just a miracle that they found him and alive.
Found him and alive.
In the snow. Wasn't he frozen?
Well, he was stiff. He was as stiff as a board, they say, and it took him a long time to be warmed up.
Logically, distance-wise, that doesn't make sense. I mean, a 2-year-old
should be dead as a doornail.
Yeah,
but in fact, you shouldn't have been able to get there.
No, frankly. How?
I'd have difficulty getting there now, and that's not just because I'm a lazy fat old man.
Oh wow! I mean, how fast can a 2-year-old walk? I know they can probably run around quite quickly.
What I find amusing is that you're asking all the questions everybody else always asks. It's like, huh? How?
Well, it is. It's just baffling because you're like, what? It's not even a straight line, and he's walking 12 miles in a straight line, of which that would be daunting.
He's walking 8 miles in a straight line. He's walking 8 miles in a straight line. He's walking 12 miles when you actually walk it properly.
Well, you have to say the 12 miles. Yeah, but you have to do 12 miles because in 19 hours, that's
motoring. That's motoring a bit for a 2-year-old. It's quite nice.
Right. Normal adult can actually walk at around 3 miles an hour. That's an adult. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A child probably could do 1 mile an hour, but they would soon run out of steam.
Not in those conditions.
No, not in those conditions. Snowing and off-piste, within hostile environment.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. That's incredible.
That is what I call a 411 case. That is a genuine 411 case.
Yeah, that's an odd one. I'll be honest with you.
Right. See, I like cases like that because those are, to me, those are now 411 cases. And then I've got another 411 case.
Go on.
Which is of a young girl called Catherine Holst, Holst, age 9.
Holst, age 9, okay.
She disappeared on 16th of June, 1946.
Wow, even older.
From Devil's Den in Arkansas. Devil's Den is a sort of like a dam sort of area. Well, it's an area, but there's a dam in there where people go swimming.
Yeah.
There's a shallow end of the dam and a deep end.
Okay.
And the thing about it is that don't think of it as a hydroelectric dam or something like that. No, it's just rocks placed in the middle of a river, So she's swimming. She goes to the deep end where she shouldn't have been really. Ladies saw her getting into trouble and fished her out.
Oh, who was the lady? Do you know?
Just a kind stranger.
Okay.
Father saw her speaking to this strange woman. I was like, and the woman was explaining, no, don't panic. Your daughter was in the deep end, and I thought she shouldn't have been. And I fished.
Yeah.
So the father was like, oh, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Come here, Catherine. Go stand over there. Like away from the nice movement. And she went and she was playing on some rocks. And I've got pictures, which I've already taken, and I'm going to share people. And she was standing on some rocks in full view of just about everybody. This wasn't hidden.
When you say everybody, what do you mean? How many
All the
people were
swimmers, all
there?
the people swimming, all the parents. Usually the kids would be in the water, the parents would be at the edge.
Yeah. So
Not really.
everybody was there.
Everybody was there. It was a family day, everybody was out there.
Yeah.
Plain view, nothing strange, nothing odd, nothing weird, as you can see in the picture. And the father's looking at his son, and then he looks up and she's not there any longer. He goes across, he looks, because when I say he goes across, he walks across the dam, if you want to call it that, which is easy to do. He's looking there, can't find her, starts shouting her name.
Yeah.
Still can't find her, gets everybody else involved. They all start looking for Catherine. Within an hour, the police are called in. Remember, I'll tell you that people called in really quickly?
Yeah.
The police are called in, and they search high, low, everywhere, can't find her. A couple of days later, they think, well, she must be in the water somehow.
Yeah.
People are like, we would have noticed. It's like, well, let's just check.
Yeah.
They stop the water from going over the dam. They actually drain it. She's not there. There's no body. Divers going into the other parts where there would be water.
Yeah.
They go in, they look, no body. Nobody, nothing. So she's just disappeared.
Okay.
6 days later, hikers are walking, and there's a young girl in a bathing suit standing outside a cave.
What? Where was this?
Sorry?
Go on. Where was this? Hikers finding a girl in a bathing suit outside a cave.
About 7 miles as the crow flies from the dam. 6 days later, 7 miles from but people, those who have been there, I don't know, I can't confirm this, claim that such a journey would be closer to 30 miles because you'd have to scout around canyons. And
How old was this girl?
8.
8.
Barefoot.
So she was still in her bathing costume.
That's right.
As was on the rock where everybody saw her.
Correct.
And then she was 8 miles away, but technically 30 miles.
She was 7 miles away, but technically 30-mile walk.
Still in a bathing costume, 6 days outside a cave.
Yes. And barefoot. She didn't take any shoes with her, so she'd walk through all this without any shoes. And no potable water anywhere near the cave. Now, what do they mean by anywhere near? I'd have preferred it if they had said the next source of potable water was X distance from the cave. But they just said no potable water near the cave, so whatever that means. Yet, she was well hydrated. Taken to a hospital, and she'd only lost a couple of pounds. And the doctors released her the following day after observing her overnight. She was perfectly all right.
Is she still alive?
I don't have any information on that.
Did she recount what happened to her?
She didn't know. She couldn't remember a thing.
She didn't know.
She remembered. She doesn't know why she left the dam area.
So she did leave the dam area, but didn't know why she left.
Well, I'm putting that for her. I'm saying she doesn't know why she wasn't. Why aren't you? I don't know. Is what That's what I'm saying on her behalf. Because it's like, well, what happened to you? I don't know what happened.
What?
But she does know. What she does remember is that the first night she slept on something that she described as warm grass. That's what she remembers on the first night, and then she doesn't remember anything until the 6th day. And all she remembers is waking up in the cave and coming out, and there were these hikers. And that's all. That's all she remembers.
See, to me, now that you've said that, the information you've provided in here, I'm going to be conspiracy again. That's an abduction, man.
By what?
By aliens. I'm going to go back to it. I can't. I'm lost.
Why did the aliens leave her in a cave? Come on, man.
Benevolent aliens? I don't know. It just sounds incredible. I mean,
it is incredible. It is incredible.
So she doesn't remember. So that the fact that she doesn't remember. See, she's not a baby. She's 8. She can talk.
Mm-hmm.
And had she set off, she would have remembered that. The fact she can't remember, that's strange in itself. Secondly, she would not have been able to walk barefoot through that distance without affecting her feet for a start. She would have cuts on her feet. She would have been able to. But you said she's barefoot, so
you'd expect bleeding feet or
cuts
something.
and something from in the bush or stones or whatever. So that's secondly. She can't remember. She had no nutrition for 6 days, no food, no drink, and she only lost 2 pounds and was in good health. I mean, what?
Well,
For
I
a
mentioned
child, come on.
hydration because when I was discussing this case with my wife, I did tell my wife, I said, you do realize that people die with 3 days without water. And my
Yes.
wife was, no, it's more
Yeah,
like a
3 days.
week.
No, it's 3 days. You're right.
I in front of her, I did the, Alexa, blah, blah, blah thing.
Hmm.
And it was, 3 days. And my wife
Yeah,
was
it's the
shocked. I said,
3-3. You know about the
oh,
three? Sorry,
no.
interlude here. 3-3. You can go without food for 3 weeks. That's your maximum. You can go without water for 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
but you can go without air for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, I guessed. That's what I was guessing. Yeah. I don't think I would make 3 minutes, to be honest with you.
No, but if you're fit and healthy, 3 minutes. Yeah.
Goodness gracious me.
Yeah. So
Three
yeah, the
threes. That's
three
fantastic.
threes.
Thanks for mentioning that. I love that. Yes, three
Yeah,
threes.
yeah.
Well, that is the case of Catherine Holt.
I mean,
you asked a good question there. There's no reason why she shouldn't be alive, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, the fact that it was 6 days.
Yes.
6 days. See that
Yes.
to me, with no food or water, we could assume, or she has no recollection of it. But then, if there's no recollection, how did she have a trauma to the head? How did she forget, or was she somehow drugged? And I'm going to be conspiracy again by some aliens who, because we've heard many stories. I know we're digressing here, but with many stories of people who've been abducted and they don't remember what happened, and they have to go through regression and hypnosis to bring back those memories. I'm wondering if this is an example of that. So it's where she was
We're going to
actually.
have to ban you from talking about Brexit and talking about aliens. Okay? I think we're going to after this show, you and I are going to have a man-to-man talk about what you're allowed to talk about on these shows. Because you and your alien thing is getting out of hand, man. How did an alien... I mean...
It's my get out of jail card.
I wish you could look at pictures of the place. It's not that kind of place where aliens will show up, because it will be in full view of everyone.
Well, you're making a big assumption there. You're making an assumption.
Aliens are hiding in the grass or something, just waiting to pounce out on some poor unsuspecting kid who might wander into the... Come on.
No.
I mean, seriously, forget the aliens. Realistically, there are questions here. Realistically, hydration, that's my main thing.
Mm.
I mean, are there fruits there? I mean, June. Well, June's the middle of summer, so I don't see why they can't have been fruits. But can you extract enough? Can you extract enough moisture from fruits? And anyway,
yeah,
what fruits?
You probably could actually. You probably could if there was enough fruit. But then the thing is, why does she not remember?
Well, that's a huge thing. Why doesn't she remember? And I suppose I can infer this from reading between the lines, but probably one of the reasons why she was kept overnight and everything and examined by doctors is to make sure that she hadn't been tampered with.
Yeah.
And she hadn't been tampered with because there was no police case. Nobody was looking for anyone.
Mm.
So
and she was okay.
She was okay. She was okay. She was okay.
Wow.
This is the problem. This is the problem. If it was an abduction, why would she let alone it's and besides footprints and things, it's difficult.
So yeah, that's a good point. So did they find any footprints of her actually making the journey or not?
Nope.
Wow.
She disappeared in point A and she reappeared in point B, which is a good 411 case.
Wow.
Mind you, don't forget that in the case of the little boy, what was his name?
Dior or something?
No,
which one was
the
that?
one who... Keith.
Oh, Keith, yes.
In Keith's case, they followed footprints, basically, didn't they? They followed footprints.
Yeah, so he did make the journey on foot somehow.
He made the journey on foot. Do we have time for me to tell you about a case in which I was aware of peripherally, if not directly?
Is this you? Because I'm mindful of the time here. We've really got
real
close
life
to the
me.
Oh, go on then. If you can summarize it fairly quickly, keep it as concise.
Oh, this is back in Nigeria.
Okay.
My wife and I met at work, and one of our co-workers had a horrible. Well, I say went through a horrible experience, but actually is going through horrible experience.
Oh dear.
Back in 92 or 93,
Okay.
this co-worker's family had to do a bash of some sort. Maybe someone was getting married or something.
Mm.
Down south, because we all lived in the north in a town called Zaria.
Yep.
This bash was in a southern city called Ibadan.
Ibadan. Okay.
Ibadan. Now, when the affair was over, this co-worker escorted her younger brother, who was a married man with a child at the time, escorted him to the what we call a motor park, which is I don't know, it's where taxis gather, taxis and buses. Because this is Nigeria, okay? It's chaotic, it's unregulated, third world,
Yeah.
upside down, inside out kind of country. But you go to the motor park, you get into a taxi or a bus going to where the hell you're going.
Yep.
She saw him into the taxi, waved goodbye. That was the last she's ever seen of him.
Really?
Yep. Now, any of Nigerians listening to this would start thinking, straight away start thinking, oh, okay, so
Abduction.
car accident. No abduction. Because you're in a car, in a taxi with others.
Oh, okay.
You never get, in Nigeria, you hardly ever, I mean, unless you're rich, you don't get into a cab on your own.
Right.
You share it with others.
I see.
And there's a standard format. There's one next to the driver, 3 behind the driver, and 2 at the back. So it's like a station wagon.
Oh, I see.
And that's pretty standard.
Right.
So you get in and you're one of 7, 8 in the car. So the first thing anybody would think of is car accident, because there's many, fatal car. So up and down the route, searching for car accidents. Now, extremely unusually, like 1 in a million days, none. No buses, no cars, no private cars, no what we call commercial cars, which are,
So not one accident that
not
day.
one accident, which is really, really, really outstanding.
Okay.
Kind of peculiar. And next thing you think, well, I don't know, maybe, they stopped for a lunch somewhere, you didn't get back into the car or something like this. So back at the destination point, which is back in Zaria, at the car park in Zaria, did any car arrive with one passenger missing? No. Every car that left Ibadan that day arrived in Zaria that day.
With all the complement of passengers.
With a full complement of passengers.
Okay, so he got to Zaria.
We don't know. Nobody saw him in Zaria. Nobody. I mean, I'm not saying he's the most famous person in Zaria, but Zaria is sort of like somebody would have seen you do something. And nobody,
And he hasn't been found to this day?
No.
Now that's odd. And the other 6 people, if there was a full complement of people,
we couldn't locate them.
Really? Could he not have just gone off with them, perhaps, or they found out he had money and tried to,
Yeah, but the car, all the taxis made it to Zaria. Remember?
Oh yeah. Wow. I don't know. That's a 411 outside of the US. That is a weird one. Definitely.
Just gone.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I would love to discuss that much further, but unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.